Well, hello everyone. Today I am here with a great friend of mine, a mentor, Heather Cook, who's a principal PM manager in the Microsoft 365 Customer Advocacy Group, and also our keynote speaker for M365 NYC. I mean, you all know Heather, okay? So I don't need you to give like any long introductions. But for those of you, or for the few of you who may not know her, she's from the Midwest, and great singers from Midwest like Prince, are the ones who have throughout their entire careers creativity and reinvention, and that is also part of Heather's story. But Heather is from Michigan. And speaking of Michigan, one of Michigan's legends, Madonna, just lit up the World Cup final halftime show yesterday. So
Yeah.
this felt like the perfect excuse to give a shout out before we dive into AI and community. Heather, welcome to N365 New York City. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'll let you to it.
Diego, thank you so much. Thank you for the shout out. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here on the show and with Diego, as usual, dear friend and MVP and amazing community leader. So, yeah. And yes, our girl Madonna definitely was on she was the first ever on any halftime show for FIFA and, and so many things. And yeah, she was born in Bay City, Michigan, where my mom is from. So our family is from the same. And I've like stood in front of Mercy Hospital where she was born and vogued. Maybe I'll have to send you that photo. But yes,
Nice.
we love her. We absolutely love her. So yeah, lots of amazing singers from the Midwest for sure. So
So
yeah.
before we dive into the event and community,
Mhm.
can we just talk about how amazing that new album is?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Confessions too. Just it the album is brilliant. The marketing is brilliant. Just everything about it. And you know what? I was laughing because we were talking about her and it was like, you know how the kids have been saying 6'7", 6'7", like
Mhm.
forever, and everybody's like, what does that mean? It was talking about Madonna because she's 67. So
I did not know that. That
I don't know. I made that up, but I think that's funny.
I feel like that album comes at such a great time. Like we all needed
Absolutely.
like a reason
Boost.
to just dance ourselves silly, and
Yep.
I think it feels such a great gap.
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But hey,
Good.
before we dive fully into the event,
Mhm.
I have a question about one of your favorite topics. Okay, so
Okay.
you serve on the steering committee for the Microsoft Global Community Initiative, or
Yes.
for those who know, MGCI. Which is a community-led program supported by Microsoft that helps connect and empower user groups, organizers, and community leaders all around the world. So can you tell us like a little bit what MGCI is about, like why it matters and how people can get involved?
Absolutely. So congratulations also. Diego is a new regional lead on MGCI, so yay. And also a big congratulations to all the returning and new MVPs. The Microsoft MVPs did the big renewal that just happened. And so I just thank you, everybody. Congratulations. And also, if you rolled off or retired, thank you. Once an MVP, always an MVP alum. So thank you for all of the things you've done in the past, and I'm sure in the future as well. So just to say that out loud as well. But MGCI, so the Global Community Initiative, this came out of really during the pandemic when things were changing from physical to digital. And we wanted a space for people out in the community who are producing events to be able to come together, to learn, to share, to talk to each other about best practices and look at the like third party tools that people use and how do you run a budget and how do you do event insurance and well, what kind of food should I have and all that kind of thing. So it's not just for event producers, but we do concentrate on that kind of content for a lot of what we're doing. But it doesn't have to just be in the technology space. I mean, everybody runs events, right? So everybody and anybody's welcome. We do have a board members, and we have regional leaders. And it is run by the community and then supported by Microsoft. And so the board members are all non-Microsoft employees. There's 10 to 12 of them, depending. And they make up a lot of the rules, and we meet and talk about all the initiatives and stuff. And then we have the regional leaders who really do sort of the volunteer working on all of this kind of stuff. And so regional leaders are ambassadors for their region. We just did a big round announcing we have 118. We doubled because we really wanted to get coverage globally, in more countries and more areas. So there's going to be a blog post actually that goes out today about that. And then we're working on our aka.ms WAC MGCI, which is on the adoption.microsoft.com website. You can go learn about the entire program there. You can sign up for our newsletter, and we'll be renewing the regional leaders page where we'll get all 118 everybody up there. So yeah, it's all about sharing and learning. We have 2 meetings every month. We have one that's more of a community builders general session where we talk about lessons learned and how people are feeling about different things out in the world and the industry of community and events. And then we have a specific event training that's led by Wes Preston and Sharon Weaver, 2 of our board members, and that's all about training on like how to do something. This month is on the 21st, and we're going to talk all about food, how to do food at an
Right.
event, which is a hugely important subject. And then coming up, actually, the 21st is Miha, who is from Miha Ziemba from Poland, who's going to talk about collab days. And at the end of the month, the training with Wes and Sharon. So lots of good stuff always with MGCI. So
Yes, and for for those of you who may not know, I don't think it's possible at this point, but just gonna say it. One of the main kids, if you will, of MGCI is communitydays.org. You know, that to me is a site that like represented such a big change in my career because I've always had that feeling that I wanted to become a speaker, that I wanted to get engaged in these events. I didn't know where to start. The second that site got launched, I was like, oh, this is it. This is, and that really became the one-stop shop where I get engaged with events, where I submit, to speak. Because for those of you who don't know here, like you don't get invited to speak at things. Like you have to apply, like, and sometimes you get rejected. So, but that was the one place that for me made really such a big difference. And Community Days has been around for 3 years now, such a great team behind it, Thomas Daly and all the others that are part of M365 New York City and all these events. So I couldn't rave anymore about it, so I'm just gonna shut up and go to actually the question about your session. So your keynote is called From AI Hype to Everyday Impact. What inspired that title, and what can attendees expect from your session?
Well, there's so much. Obviously, we're talking about AI in every breath, practically, right? And so there's been a lot of hype about it, about what it can do, and how how you should use it, and all of that. And I think I really wanted to share how I use it every day. Examples of where I use it. I mean, I'm in a team of like 8 to 10 people, and we have tons of consultants that work with us as well. And then I'm producing events for Microsoft where we have a pretty large team. And so from, any given time, we're all working together on strategy. And I'm also an event producer, right? So I help, when we sponsor an event, I produce that, how we show up. And so I just wanted to show everybody, how I'm using it, and all of the sort of from the differences too between using Copilot, Cowork, or Scout as well, because that's new, right? And that does come down to the individual a bit of like how you use it when. So I will talk about that definitely in my keynote.
So, and this is a very important point because folks, of course, have been exposed to Copilot for generating Teams meeting minutes by now, right? Like if you haven't used that for, for managing your meetings, then, but the point is there's still so many more ways that people could use it and they're still not sure to use it in their daily work. So like, can you just give just a sneak peek, like what simple way they recommend that anyone can start getting real value from M365 Copilot?
Absolutely. I mean, I've set up some scheduled tasks for sure for myself. So, I use it for like starting my day. I use it for ending my day. But I use it a lot for finding things, to be honest with you. I'm looking for sometimes, oh, that keynote. And maybe I just don't remember where it was. And so I'll use Copilot for that. I also use it a ton for going back into meetings and helping me set up what I need to do next, or if I need to tell somebody to help me do something or ask a question. So I use Copilot every day for that, for sure. And then Cowork, I'm pointing Cowork at different documents and different meetings and things to like pull that stuff together, maybe in a comprehensive plan. That's when I switched to Cowork. And so, when I'm really, really looking at a bunch of different artifacts and I'm pulling things together and having to do something really comprehensive. And so I use, Copilot for just kind of smaller questions, I think, and then just daily tasks and that sort of thing. Cowork I save for the big stuff, or if I'm looking at it like a big budget and I wanted like a pivot table. Like I can do pivot tables, but oh my goodness, it's so much more better having them do that in Cowork. It's fantastic. So that's how I use it.
Right, right. And I say another thing I say to you all the time is, once you become comfortable with it, of course, start playing with the different models. Like you don't need
Absolutely.
to use the highest model for something so simple. Sometimes, like one thing I use myself for is like for manipulating CSV files. Like sometimes you get like exports of data and you want to generate stuff. That for me saves so much time, because before I would be doing like calculations in Excel. Now I just throw one CSV file and I said, hey, reorganize this by this criteria, blah blah blah, generate tables, generate reports. It's magical once you start.
We did that for so the regional leaders, right? We had a form, a nomination form, so you could nominate a regional leader, and then the regional leader got a notification. They filled out the form. There's tons of questions in it, right? And Emily Hove on our team and Brian Hart, who are my counterparts for MGCI, we went through and like pulled everything out in Excel spreadsheets, and we were looking at it and we were scoring and all this stuff, and we did that. Well, and then that kind of happened over time, and then all of a sudden, Cowork popped up, and I was like, threw Cowork at it. Oh my gosh! It went, I was just like, we spent so much time doing all that scoring, and then we were able to like kind of look at it at what we came up with, and Cowork looked at it, and we were pretty on the money for it, but like the quickness that it did all of what we just did manually was bananas. And we were all like, my goodness, wow, So it was really interesting to have had that experience of doing something more manually and then actually doing it with Cowork. And it was just like lightning. It was ridiculous. So yeah.
So one thing that I really love is your humans first approach to AI.
Mm.
Can you explain what that means and why it's so important?
Absolutely. I mean, say humans first and also humans in the loop. You'll be hearing that from just about everybody who's talking about AI at Microsoft and out in the industry. It's AI is wonderful for doing, a lot of the things that we were talking about, but having a human in the loop, I don't just have Copilot do something and just send it. I rarely do that. AI does hallucinate. AI doesn't always get it right. And also there's nuance. There's empathy, there's just your one's creative brain. And so yes, AI makes me, who I'm already pretty fast at what I do with being around for a long time, but it makes me even faster. But also putting my spin on things and making sure that the data is correct is really important, because if we're just sending out AI without checking it, you do get some slop, and you don't want that, right? And you want to be correct in what you're talking about. And so having a human in the loop to do all of that nuanced work, to do that checking, to do that refinement, to do that creativity, to bring the empathy, to bring, all of those things to bear in the table. That's responsible AI, along with creating responsible AI within what you're doing and in the models, but also as people who are using these tools. I think it's our responsibility to make sure that we're putting the best, output out there. And that means checking it and making sure it's correct, because we don't want bad data out in the world, for sure.
So another topic that I know is close to heart to you and
Mhm.
to myself and to many of us, of course, is community.
Yes.
How do you think AI is changing the way communities learn, collaborate, and share knowledge?
I think we've done this, for me, especially at work. I will say that our meetings have changed from just telling each other updates, because we can do that with Copilot. We can now read, so we're reading a lot more of like updates, but we're learning together more. We're using our meetings for, how are you doing this? What prompt are you using? What model are you using? And so we're having more working sessions together where we're having those conversations. So it's sometimes like I felt like, especially during the pandemic, you felt alone a bit. You're behind screens and you're not with each other. And I don't know, this, because it's new for everybody, it's forcing more collaboration, and learning together. And I think the community the same way. We're talking to each other. People are hosting webinars, people are hosting learning sessions, people are getting together. What prompt did you use? How did you do that? So there's just, sharing has always been a huge part of the community. But I think, even more so right now, when we're all trying to do this together, because we're all learning together. The expert, we're all experts right now.
We're all learning together about something that's evolving faster than any of us can catch up with, right? So I think that is also so important, because what makes a lot of sense for me today, All it takes is a new model to come out tomorrow, and the whole thing gets, turned upside down.
Absolutely. Yeah. And people are gonna, it's with the consumption model, that is how all of these things are billing. People are going to need to learn about when to use Copilot, when to use Cowork, when to use Scout, when to use this, when to use that, what model to use. And it's a administrative thing from top down, but it's also, you're giving, these tools to people as individuals. So we are having to learn as individuals how to discern that as well, like what to use when. And so we're putting out a lot of information right now as Microsoft on adoption to help guide people, and to look at those things about like what tool when, what model when is really important right now for sure.
Heather, one very personal question now. Like, you had like a beautiful career as marketing executive, business owner, producer, writer, podcast host, Microsoft MVP, and now you're a leader at Microsoft. Like, looking back, for those of you, who come see you, for those of you watching here, like, what's the one lesson that stayed with you through every chapter?
Be curious. Be curious. Be curious about the world. Be curious about other people, and be curious about yourself. Knowing yourself is super important. And that means to continue to stay curious. Ask yourself the questions. Do I like this? Am I happy? Is this giving me energy? Is this my values? Are these things my values? Be curious about the world as well. Go push the buttons. Go play. Go try something different. Keep your mind busy. I think, to me, curiosity and being like, how does this work, and how should we do this, and I kind of treat everything like a big chessboard or a Tetris puzzle. How do these things fit together? So continue to stay curious about yourself and the world, and then also curate deep, beautiful personal relationships with other people. They will serve you your entire life. Have friends. It's so
Absolutely.
important. Yeah.
So, this is like a beautiful segue to the next question that I have for you.
Oh, great.
Well, you often encourage people to become the expert of yourself.
Mhm.
What does that mean, especially for someone who's feeling overwhelmed by AI or wondering how they will fit into this new world of work?
Mm. I think bring it back to the basics always. Like, we complicate things. Human beings, we complicate things. We get in our heads. I do too. I like, what, like, do I really know this, or is this going to be great or not? People have imposter syndrome. Everybody has it. I don't care who they are. Every person has it. When you about to walk on stage or launch something or do whatever, every person has that moment of, oh, okay. I believe that's true. And it's also because you care. But I think, bring it back to the basics of, you're allowed to do just one thing at a time, and try and understand that. Also, with AI, the biggest thing that people forget is natural language. That means it's you talking in your way, and you will find your way with prompting and all of this other stuff. But half the time, like, to me, like, the best thing is that I can turn this on here, and I'm all like, okay, here's what I want to do, blah 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 blah, blah. And I want it like this, and I want it like that, and I want it to be orange, and blah, 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 blah. Like, literally, y'all, that is how this works. Now, okay, if we're getting into coding and all that kind of other stuff, yes, we're going to get, we're going to want to have our prompts be a little different. But just to try that, use your phone. Turn on the microphone, right? And talk. That's it. Start there and do something like, I don't know, you want to go to, I don't know, Reykjavik or whatever, like, set me up a 2-week vacation in Iceland with this parameter and that thing and the blah, blah, blah. And I'm a foodie and I'm a this and I'm a that. See what happens. And then refine it and play with it. That's how we
And
learn,
and question and argue back. Like, I
Yeah.
I have like I have fights with Copilot. I was like, why did you say this? Look back at the question that I just asked you. Was it really what I asked you? Oh no,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I am, here's the correct answer.
Yeah. And it starts to get to know you too. That's the other thing. It's like all the different models and stuff that I use, and I use everything. Because
Mhm.
I'm curious. I like knowing what's going on across all technology and stuff. And so I use different models and for different things. And you can say, add this to memory, or make sure you remember this. Like everybody's all like, don't use M dashes or whatever. You know what I mean? Because that's the telltale AI sign or whatever. But you can say, remember this because this is the brand color, or this is, how I talk about it, or this is my mission statement, or whatever, and that gets into a little bit, more levels, but not really. I think be curious, press the button, try, and ask people, what prompt did you use? And have them send it to you. And, there's a beautiful prompt gallery that we have on adoption.microsoft.com. And all of that stuff is now, we're putting it in the product. So inside the admin center and inside the product for Copilot, you're going to be able to get to the prompt gallery, and that thing is awesome. So
Right.
use those tools. Don't try to sit there and suffer by yourself. There's lots of tools. There's so many webinars. There's so many people who are willing to help you, for sure. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, ask for help.
Right. And another thing that I like to say is, at a minimum, if you follow the Microsoft community calls every week, you're going to get a prompt of the week, so every week there's something cool. So even if you don't have time to browse through the gallery, subscribe to those feeds, catch up with those calls, because there's always something interesting, and it doesn't always have to be work related. I submitted one prompt that ended up being prompt of the week one time, which was like a photo of like me, Prince, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, and David Bowie, whatever. It was a bunch of celebrities. And anyway, the point is, you don't just use that to like analyze your work or your daily meetings. Like, use that for cooking. I've lately like been like hitting the gym hard so I can have like more energy to go to these events. So I'm always asking like, hey, what is the best like lunch option for me today? Things like that as well. Don't seek medical help, but but healthy,
Yeah.
healthy choices, whatever
Oh
it is. I mean, the
yeah.
sky's the limit.
Absolutely. And it's great for that kind of stuff. It's great for making lists. It's like I've done that too. It's like I want to kind of optimize things for myself, and like, this is what I do. Is this the right sequence of vitamins? When should I take these vitamins? Depending on what medications I take or other things like that. It's kind of stuff like that. Like, I'm definitely using AI to help with that kind of thing as well. Cause why not?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm,
So, so people are coming to New York. They're going to sit through your keynote. If someone could leave that session remembering just one thing, what would you want the takeaway to be?
I want them to use their phones to talk into them, to try out AI. I used my phone for a strategic meeting. I couldn't be at one of our strategic meetings for doing our planning. I turned a facilitator on and I talked into it for like 45 minutes, and it came up with a plan for me, at least the skeleton of it, and it was awesome. So use your phone and talk to it.
Amazing. So finally, why should someone make the trip to New York to join us at M365 NYC this year?
First of all, I love the New York community. Of course, you're amazing and wonderful. And anytime Tom asks for things, I'm like, you betcha. Yeah, it's just great. I love New York City as well. I'm definitely a person that loves that city. And also, it's just, I love being able to go support our community days events. They're so important. And so whenever I get a chance to do that, I was in Minneapolis last year and Grand Rapids. And so I hope to do a few more this year coming up. So it's going to be great.
And I always say too, like, you go to these community days events, or any community events really, and one thing that strikes me is like, you often get the unpolished version of many of the sessions that you see in the big conferences, which is great because that is such a great time for you to challenge people's thoughts. You get to sit with Heather in a much smaller setting than the 3,000, 1,000 people that you see at a big conference. Like, you get FaceTime with so many great people, so many, inspiring people. Me, I couldn't rave any more than I do about it. For those of you guys who are watching this, if you haven't signed up for it yet, please don't forget to register at m365nyc.com. We'll see you July 31st at Microsoft Times Square. Heather, thank you so much for joining
You're
us. Like,
welcome.
I can't wait to welcome you to New York and hear your
Yay.
keynote.
Yay.
But any parting thoughts for people watching?
Yeah, come to the event. It's going to be super fun. New York City is always a blast. This event is always wonderful. It's, down at the Times Square office. And, communitydays.org. Check out all the events that are coming up. And if you want to listen to an event there, it's always free to do that, to use all those tools. So yeah, please come see a community days and then connect with people in the community on the different platforms and all of that as well. And, there's always someone who is willing to help and share and connect with you. So don't be shy about that, for sure. So,
Absolutely.
yep,
Heather, thank you so much once again.
you're
Okay.
welcome.
See you in 2 weeks in New York. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. See
All
y'all.
right.
Thank you so
All
much,
right.
Diego. Yay.
Thank you.